What's up? Welcome back to the show, y'all. I know it's been a while since I've been on, but I'm looking forward to be back. We are we are here. Championship week is upon us. Hopefully, most of y'all who are on it, if not all of you guys, are playing in some league this week for a championship. And if you're not, I have a DFS slate to talk about with you shortly here. Feel free to go in the comments, ask some questions, some start sit questions. Let me know if it's a PPR, half PPR, how many teams are in your league. Very important as we move forward here. This is the final week of fantasy football. It's a bit sad. The good thing is, for those that like daily fantasy, there's stuff like that out there. There's a lot of survivor leagues, even for playoffs, that I'm going to be joining, and others, just to keep the entertainment alive for football as we are inching closer to the playoffs. As most of you guys know, I'm a Bears fan, so really excited. We clinched the division last night. There was a lot of people who didn't believe the Bears would be there, but the Bears are officially in the playoffs and won their division and have a shot tonight versus the San Francisco Niners for Sunday Night Football for the number one seed. We're hoping Carolina beats Seattle today to give us that opportunity. That should be a big game, as the Carolina Panthers are also playing for their division. They're currently a game up on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers are probably hoping Seattle wins that, get Carolina to lose. And then next week, if I'm not mistaken, week 18 will be a matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, basically win or go home. That should be a phenomenal matchup if that is the outcome. But obviously, of course, like I said, I'm hoping Seattle loses and we can see some things shake up at the top. All right, without further ado, feel free to start dropping in questions. I'm going to do things a little bit different today. I know there's one matchup for most of y'all this week, just given the circumstances that it is championship week. So if you guys have some questions, I'll start answering some of them as I'm talking through this DFS breakdown. If you guys also have some questions on DFS, I'm also open to talking about some slips as well if you guys are looking to do a parlay. There are a few different things I like today, and I just want to get started to that. I know I usually do position by position. I'll mix it up a little bit here and switch things up. I am really interested in this Jacksonville Indianapolis game, and I'm sure many are as well. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence. If you guys have been watching Trevor Lawrence play the last couple of weeks, he has been out of this world. Trevor Lawrence is going to be one of the popular quarterbacks on this slate. Trevor Lawrence has been a top 10 scorer in 6 straight games, with multiple passing touchdowns in all of them. So if you are in a championship league this week, there's a good chance that some of you guys are starting Trevor Lawrence. He is going to be high up on my list, especially given the circumstances he had last week. And I say circumstances because in fantasy football, most, if not all, are looking at matchups. And he was playing the Denver Broncos. Many sat him and thought, he's not a good option because he's playing a top 3 defense in the league. And he played so well, which is really good if you're a Jacksonville Jaguar fan, to see Trevor Lawrence finally hit this stride. For most who saw him play at Clemson and get rained, this attention that he was getting, that he was going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the league, he's starting to look that part in the last couple of weeks. So it's been great. But of course, for fantasy football, he's been huge, winning many people weeks. So we got Trevor Lawrence here. Want to break that down, right? So Trevor Lawrence, we want to look at some of his counterparts and some of the players, his pieces that we want to stack with him. I am going to kind of play around with a lineup. I haven't really set a lineup up today. I'm going to be playing one lineup for week 17 because things get a little bit crazy. I usually like to play for games that have a little more meaning. Indianapolis Colts, they got eliminated from playoff contention last night due to that Texans win versus the Chargers. So they may not have much to play for, some may think, but they're going to play spoilers. with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who play in the same division. I don't expect the Colts to really pull back too much. Last I read, Sauce Gardner is expected to play today. So definitely after the amount of draft picks they gave up for him, I expect them to still throw him out there and see what he still got. Brian Thomas Jr., he's had an up and down season overall, but man, I would be lying to you if he's not one of my favorite plays this week. I think what Brian Thomas Jr. does is perfect for this type of matchup. The Colts like to play a lot of man-to-man defense, and I think Brian Thomas Jr. is going to do a lot of damage today. We've seen guys like Parker Washington look really good. I don't think he's a bad play at all today. I think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. I think the Colts are more of a pass funnel defense. So it's not the greatest matchup for Etienne, but if you're starting him because he's one of your better options in Championship League, we don't want to get too cute with that. Travis Etienne is also a pass catching back. They lost Bashal Tutin, and now they got LaQuint Allen, who LaQuint Allen has been coming out there for a lot of the pass blocking stuff. And, he also is a really good pass catcher as well. Would not surprise me if they try to get him involved a little bit more too. But Travis Etienne is still someone you're going to want to play. But Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers, Bretton Strange, I'm looking at guys like that for today. But my favorite stack, I would say, would be Brian Thomas Jr. And I, of course, try not to play those kind of guys alone as a one-off play. I definitely want to play him with Trevor Lawrence, just given the matchup this week. It's just too good to pass up. So Trevor Lawrence is someone I'm going to play here. I'm going to put Brian Thomas Jr. in this lineup and see what we're looking at. Right now, we have a remaining salary of $5,500. Probably going to want someone to bring back with that. Let's check out a little bit of the comments here. We have Nelson. Thanks you, Nelson, for hopping on the show. Appreciate you, man. Have a dilemma. I'm thinking Pollard over Harrison Jr. Reason Pollard's doing better, and now he faces Saint defense who allows a run. Harrison Jr. will be on a snap count, and Cincinnati D is stingy. Well, one thing's for sure, neither one of those teams are playing for much today. So that doesn't help us here with your dilemma. I do like the idea of Pollard. Now, it looks like, this would be a flex question, right? Because if we're going to play Pollard, and so Harrison Jr., I like the play, but you're right. He's on a snap count. Trey McBride is the main focal point on this offense. I really like what we've been seeing from Pollard. I really like and this matchup is pretty good. I think I would stick with Tony Pollard here, man. I like that thought process you have going on over here, especially Tony Pollard. And then you answered, flex, yes. Let's go with Tony Pollard. Over Marvin Harrison Jr. I think things changed if we had an injury in Arizona and we wanted to see more. And to be honest, last week we saw Arizona kind of change things. They've been a very pass-heavy team all year long, and they kind of changed things around. Michael Carter became a bigger play, and they started running the football a little bit more. I expect them to see a little bit more from Michael Carter as well as we get to the end of the season. We're not seeing Trey Benson anymore, no James Conner, no Bam Knight. I mean, everybody's basically out. So I like that. Tony Pollard, go with that. All right, we have No Limit Soto. Thanks for hopping on the show. If I start T-Law, he won't go off. If I bench T-Law, he will have another generational game. My man, go with your gut. I don't know who your other options would be over Trevor Lawrence, but man, I really do think Trevor Lawrence, I mean, obviously, when you play a Trevor Lawrence type players, there's some down in him. But as far as upside, he already showed you a 50 fantasy point upside week. That's huge. Just know this. Going into best ball this year, which I hope a lot of you guys come on for the ride. We have some really fun things planned in the offseason for that. But Trevor Lawrence is going to be a guy I'm going to take a look at for sure, because he's already sharing upside with a lot of the elite quarterbacks that we've seen play, like Josh Allen, the Lamar Jacksons of the world, guys that can drop those points. So when T-Law is capable of doing that, we love that. And in a matchup this good, if he's able to do this, it's huge. They're still playing for something technically, and it's all seeding at this point. They're also competing with the Houston Texans for that division as well. So I like T-Law a lot today. So sorry, man. I really hope he still gives you the generational game while starting him. All right, we got Andrew on. Andrew, full PPR, Juwan Johnson or Hunter Henry. I did have a buddy text me about this today. Man, I think Juwan Johnson and Hunter Henry's been good too. That's a tough one. Let's lean Hunter Henry. No Matt Collins, no Pop Douglas, no who else? There was somebody else who's also out. They're really thin in New England. You're gonna see a lot of Kyle Williams today outside of Stephon Diggs. We're gonna see Chisholm, their slot receiver. Hunter Henry should have a big week, but man, you got a good option here. They've also been incorporating Taysom Hill now a little bit more, so that always bugs me. But Juwan Johnson's really not a bad option. Let's lean Hunter Henry, given the circumstances that they're having in New England right now, and getting him going. And you're right too. Pats play the Jets, so the worst defense in the possible league. So big Drake May week, hopefully. I think Drake May is the number one quarterback for this week. And I think if we're going to see him score a lot, it's going to be a lot with Diggs and Hunter Henry, like you mentioned there. All right, let's swing real quick right back into this. I have a current stack of Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas Jr. I'm not a big fan of just forcing stacks in terms of like the bringbacks for the Indianapolis Colts, but if there was one, we would be interested, obviously, in Jonathan Taylor. We'll see where the money's at. The Jacksonville Jaguars run defense has been very stingy. So they've been a little bit tougher versus the run. They've been easier to beat versus the pass. Now they have Phillip Rivers, but we can't talk crap about old man Rivers because he went off last week or Monday Night Football as we watched. Phillip Rivers was going crazy. Alec Pierce was going crazy. So it was really fun to see watching that game and kind of seeing what Phillip Rivers still has in his bag. But we're going to go to some other plays here. One of the popular plays today, it throws me off so much. The game that everybody is in on daily fantasy today is the New York Giants versus the Las Vegas Raiders. This game has no intrigue for me, even though the field is all over the game. I don't get it. The New York Giants and the Las Vegas Raiders are basically playing for the number one overall pick. The Giants currently hold the number one pick, and the Las Vegas Raider, with a loss, gets the number one pick. And if you guys remember dating back to last year, the Giants were in the same position. I don't know if it was week 16, I want to say, and Drew Lock was a starting quarterback, and he went off, threw for multiple touchdowns, and ended up winning that game, which took them out of the number one pick, and it ended up becoming the Tennessee Titans pick. And I think the Giants dropped down to the third overall pick. Yeah, it's insane. So insane to just watch that scenario come back here and be like, are the Giants really going to give it their all today? And I don't think so. I really don't think so. They kept Joe Shane. So Shane being back, the GM, and we already lost Brian Daboll, right? So losing him and keeping the GM back, there's no need for them to give it their all. The other issue that we're having on the other side, right? Maybe we were like, all right, maybe Pete Carroll is kind of playing for something today. Maybe, the guys there, that Geno Smith wants to have a better game, so such and such. I don't know if Pete Carroll's coming back next year, if so or not, but I think the big news we got this week was the news of Max Crosby. Max Crosby now being out and being forced to sit out creates a huge issue. So we obviously know the Raiders want to lose this game just as much as the Giants want to lose this game. Yet all the ownership is flooding here. Now, maybe a piece or two I do like Trey Tucker. He doesn't need to score necessarily a touchdown to be such a great play. He's a big yardage guy. I could see Geno throwing him the football. He had a game earlier this year. I believe it was with Geno as well. And we can pull up his stats here where he had, I think it was like a 40-point fantasy game. I'm trying to remember what week it was. It was week 3 versus the Washington Commanders. 9 targets, 8 receptions. He did have a touchdown, but check this out. 8 catches, 145 yards. He's 3,800 today. So if I'm going to play into it, because you kind of had to play it into a little bit of the game environment just because of how much ownership is in there, I am not in love with Ashton Genty today. I do understand it's the Giants. Not a big fan of the blocking that we've seen up front from the Raiders. I don't see a reason why they are trying to win this game, man. I'm not. I like it for props purposes. I do have currently a slip in for rushing attempts for Genty, rushing attempts for Tyron Tracy, and then I have the under on this game, which earlier this week was at 41 and a half. So I kind of parlay those three things together, kind of just playing into this notion of like, there's no way these two teams are really playing in it. Now, if we go in and Geno Smith starts going crazy, then it's going to suck. But yeah, they shut down Brock Bowers. They shut down Max Crosby. I am only talking about this quote unquote toilet bowl game for the mere fact that everyone wants to play into this game. The ownership is insane. Most people are going to be playing it. Like I said, I may consider Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer's 2,500. And it's a good thing that we're mentioning it because Andrew just said, now that you mentioned Taysom Hill, he's a sneaky tight end play for 2,700. Yeah, absolutely. Taysom Hill comes in there, can play quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. He does it all for them. 2,700, it's not bad. He's going to have some ownership, especially given the game that he had this past week. 2,500 is who I wanted to mention real quick. No Brock Bowers. Michael Mayer is going to be there. Now, why would I play a guy at 2,500 if I'm not interested in the game? Well, the price. 2,500 doesn't take much to beat this price point. Just doesn't take much. He gives you this 16-point game that he had in week 6 versus Tennessee with no Brock Bowers, I believe. You're cruising. You're cruising to the very top. This is a fantasy football millionaire contest here. So you're going to want those things. With that said, let's just add them here as I'm trying to build this as well. Once again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I will be popping them up as we go here. So I got Michael Mayer, Brian Thomas Jr., Trevor Lawrence. We can move around here. Let's get some running backs for this slate here. We have some really good pieces. Chase Brown has a really good spot. I did mention Michael Carter. I said Ashton Genty at 6,100 is a popular play today. I think one player that I am interested in today is Kenneth Walker. It sounds crazy, but Kenneth Walker had a monster week. Kenneth Walker, you live and die with these kind of plays. At 5,800 versus a Carolina team that's going to play them tough a little bit here. I do like what Kenneth Walker is capable of. 16 attempts, 67 yards, 3 targets, 3 receptions, 444 yards. 5,800 seems just about that. I love that Breece Hall is here because I wanted to mention him for fantasy football. In my current league right now, I have plans to bench Breece Hall. We saw last week he had the what do you call it? The roll, right? He had a heavy roll. We still saw some Isaiah Davis, and he had 14 attempts, 58 yards, 2 receptions, 2 targets, 6 yards. But I feel like at this point, with the way they're playing, Breece Hall can come in there, right, and just go crazy. But I still need some solid floor play. So I'm thinking about putting Breece Hall currently in my flex. I'm taking him out for Kyle Pitts this week and just playing that. I really like the matchup that Kyle Pitts has this week over Breece Hall. But these are some of those tough matchups that you're making, playing for a little more upside as well. I'm fully aware that these are the type of plays that Breece Hall is capable of. But with the season just dead and out and the possibilities of Breece Hall leaving, we are in week 17. These are things that we should start thinking about even while we're playing daily fantasy. Those are the thoughts you want to keep in mind. I'm not interested really in him this week. Another guy here, I mentioned Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Gainwell, I really like this week. We just saw the news that DK Metcalf is out. Rather than chasing some of these plays, and I'm sorry for all the noise back there. I got my dog in here, and he's just going crazy. All right, well, Kenneth Gainwell, apologize. Kenneth Gainwell, no DK Metcalf. The passing options, as you already know, Pittsburgh Steelers are very hard to depend on that offense. But I really like what we've been seeing from Kenneth Gainwell. Aaron Rodgers at this point has been dumping the ball off like crazy. This is a great opportunity for Kenneth Gainwell. Even at 5,600, he's getting rushing attempts. He's getting opportunities out there. 8 targets. I really like him in this game environment. The Steelers are still playing for something, even though they are ahead and they are currently in the driver's seat for their division. The Ravens won last night, so the Ravens are still in the hunt. Steelers lose, the Ravens are back in the mix for a big Week 18 slate where things can change. All right, I got another question here. Chivalry King, thank you for hopping on. Jawan Johnson, Colston Loveland, Jake Tongs, or Mike Gesicki. Standard league. When it comes down to this stuff right here, man, I like to lean on just rankings, hard rankings here. I really like Jawan. I really like this in this exact order that you have here. So I would lead Jawan Johnson over those 3 guys, and then following Colston Loveland. That matchup today with the San Francisco 49ers is a big one, and I believe we're going to see a lot of Loveland to beat the Niners. You're going to have to beat them passing versus running. And then Jake Towns, I get George Kittle not being in play today, but yeah, I'm going to lean Jawan Johnson. And I always say Jawan Johnson to make this known. I do know Taysom Hill is a big part of this offense now, as of last week too. But Jawan Johnson and Tyler Shuck, if you've been listening to my shows or my best balls, they both have played together in college. So there's a rapport that was already there for them. So I lean Jawan Johnson there. All right, y'all. Let's go to running back here. So we said Kenneth Gainwell is a guy I'm interested in. Let me throw Kenneth Gainwell in there and kind of see what we can start building. And we talked about Tony Pollard for regular season. I'm not opposed to that. Michael Carter really intrigues me today versus Cincinnati, who just can't stop the run for whatever it is. I also think one of the high owned plays today from the Cincinnati team that we can correlate here would be Jamar Chase. So we're going to stack Jamar Chase and bring back with Michael Carter. So this is what I have so far. Currently, right now, an average of 5,700. We got another question here. Thank you for hopping on the show. Carter, Pollard, Waddle, start to. Let's go Carter and Pollard. Waddle's a little tough, man, with Quinn Ewers at the helm right now. It's a little different if we had Tua there, but I do like Carter and I do like Pollard right now ahead of Waddle. And again, it just goes back to the quarterback play that kind of makes me a bit nervous in trusting Waddle this week's. Thoughts on London? Only other play would be Waddle or Bird. I think you just got to start London, man. If you're playing championship this week, which I'm expecting you are, if not, it's sometimes there's weeks, there's leagues I know that extend till week 18. You got to lean London here. But if you're not feeling the best between Waddle and Burden, I'm really high on Burden this week. But if I were you, I'm just gonna stick with London, man. You gotta stick with the big guns this week and hope it takes you to the promised land. And I'm really hoping most of y'all, if not all of you guys who are on the show right now in a championship league, wins your matchup. All right, we are coming down here to the very end. I have 3 positions left. I'm going to fill 2 more and leave 1 empty for you guys to decide. So for that, let's go with the defensive play. Defensive play, the most popular play today is the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm a little hesitant about this, and usually it's because of games that matter. So Cleveland could play spoiler, same division as the Pittsburgh Steelers, same division as the Baltimore Ravens, and they can make it really tough for both teams right now to have to go down to week 18. So I like going opposite of what the field wants here, as opposed to playing the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. I think the Steelers defense has been so overrated all year. They've had some good weeks here and there, but for the most part, they've been very overrated. And if you guys have followed Mike Tomlin's career, it seems like at the very end, before the playoffs and right going into the playoffs, his defense takes a massive hit. So would not surprise me if Shedeur Sanders comes in there and lights the world on fire. Mind you that even though they're not in playoff contention anymore, Shedeur Sanders is playing for something. Kevin Stefanski could be playing for something. We're not too sure if he's currently in a hot seat, but there's a possibility. So I could see Shador Sanders really trying to play tough today, and that rest of the team, especially given that they're division rivals. So I'm staying away from the Steelers defense, and that alone already makes me contrarian. So what defense am I interested in? You could pay up at 3,900. Seems like we have enough money, right? Average of 5,700. We could play the New England Patriots versus a Jets team that's just awful. Yes, division rival team, but man, it's very tough to see the Jets really come in there and make things harder. Seahawks and Carolina, both teams are playing for something, so I might try to stay away. New Orleans and Tennessee. Tennessee's been playing better as of late. New Orleans is playing well, and we can keep going down here, right? Jacksonville and Indiana. If you don't believe that Philip Rivers' week this past week was real and legit, this is a good week to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars and do something different, especially since they've been able to take away the ball as well. So I kind of like the Jaguars defense a little bit. Actually, since we are playing a little heavy here, why don't we do that? There's nobody in Indianapolis that I really like to bring back. We're going to go with a Jacksonville Jaguars defense here for this lineup. And then we're going to come down here to the flex position. It could be wide receiver. It could be running back, one or the other. We have enough. Look at that. That still leaves us with 6,800. So we still have enough here to pay up for one of the top guys. Devon Achane is facing a little bit of a tough matchup, but he's still a good play, especially given his volume, which was a word I was looking for earlier. James Cook is in a good matchup here. Very intriguing play, especially since Philly has been getting gashed a lot versus the run. I think that this is a good game for James Cook to show up. There's expected a lot of weather in this Philly and Buffalo game, a lot of rain. They're saying it's going to be throughout the entirety of the game. Not as much wind, but definitely a lot of rain. Usually that's smash mouth football. We're going to get a lot of Saquon and a lot of James Cook, which, by the way, Saquon to me is another good play. But I think I'm just going to make this easy. Go with my boy, go with my guy in a few championship leagues that I'm in today. I'm going to go with Trey McBride. People are going to play him. Some may not because they're not going to like the price. But, man, has he been paying off this price point? Even at 7,500. I mean, I look at him and I just forget that he's a tight end. And I just think of him as a wide receiver for the sake of building this lineup and say 7,500 is still pretty good for a guy who gets about 30 fantasy points on most weeks, averages 20 fantasy points a game, basically neck to neck with Jamar Chase right here, 19.2, 20.5, and we're paying 8,300 for Jamar Chase. The offense literally runs through Trey McBride. Cincinnati's defense can't stop anybody. And even dating back to the past, Cincinnati's usually been pretty bad versus tight end. And also funny, Arizona was also one of those teams too that usually couldn't defend the tight end position. All right, so I'm going to leave you guys with this. That leaves you with 6,200 for the wide receiver position. Here goes Jalen Waddle, who we've talked already a little bit about today. For daily fantasy, it's not a bad shot to take on. I'm just not truly in love with him for season long. Devontae Smith is a great play. Ted McMillan just got ruled in. So there's a lot of things you can play with, and you can move from the defenses. And, if you go 3,400 right there, which was actually pretty perfect, right? Because 3,300 for the Steelers defense, and you wanted to go a little bit lower, do not touch the Jets. But, man, what if you think the Browns really make things difficult for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Boom. 7,100 can get you a lot here. So you can still go to AJ Brown. You can still go to Mike Evans. You can still go to T. Higgins. So it adds a little bit more. You can mix and match and do what you need. But that's about it, y'all. Thank you so much for hopping on the show. I really hope you guys, this is Nilo, everyone. Can't stay still. Thank you guys so much for hopping on the show. Great season overall. Thank you guys for supporting the streams. I will still be on. I'm going to try to do a little more daily fantasy even throughout the playoffs. And we're going to get best ball started at the end of January. I already have a guest lined up, which I'm really excited to share that news real soon. That guest will be hopping on at the end of January once pre-draft best ball starts. So I'll be sharing that information as soon as we get it and can share then. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Best of luck. Hopefully you guys take down that championship. and win all the money. Thank y'all and peace.